Hello students, today we are going to learn the chapter The Enemy in detail. This chapter has been written by Pearl S. Buck, and in the previous lesson I have already introduced you all to the chapter. I also told you the theme or the central idea of the chapter. I told you this chapter of course is an anti-war, this chapter has an anti-war story, though the writer has not spelled it categorically. Writer has nowhere mentioned that it is an anti-war story, but de-glorification of war has been hinted throughout the story. When we read the story, we definitely get to know that writer is nowhere in favor of war. So this is the first theme of this chapter. The writer is, not favoring wars. So this is definitely an anti-war story or a chapter. Second thing, this chapter presents a conflict between inherent humaneness and prejudice and hatred created by war. Alright, so how wars are, narrowness of war. Narrowness of war create hatred, and we consider even our friends and fellow beings as enemy. This is known as pseudo-nationalism. What do you mean by pseudo-nationalism? Pseudo-nationalism means fake nationalism. When we kill a person we do not even know. When we start favoring wars, we very well know that in wars, of course, everyone is going to suffer. Both the countries are going to suffer. That is known as pseudo-nationalism. Alright, now third theme of this chapter is, the protagonist of this chapter is a doctor. And how a doctor chose his profession over pseudo-nationalism, over patriotism. Alright, I told you how a doctor is a resident of entire earth, entire globe. He doesn't belong to a particular country, or he is not supposed to treat patients or wounded people of particular country, but he is supposed to treat all wounded person who are in front of him. Alright, irrespective of caste, color, creed, religion, nationalism, everything. So we studied three themes in this chapter. Anti-war story. Second is pseudo-nationalism, alright, that creates hatred amongst people. Third one is profession over nationalism. Whenever you are serving any particular profession, that comes irrespective of caste, color, creed or nationality. Alright. So these are three themes that we studied of this chapter. As far as the summary of this chapter is concerned, children, I told you three characters of the story. The protagonist of this character is, Dr. Sadao Hockey, a doctor, a Japanese doctor. Second, Hana, the wife of Dr. Sadao, who is very supportive, right? Third is Tom, American prisoner of war. Alright, so in this chapter we studied that how Dr. Sadao Hockey lived on a Japanese coast. He used to live in a beachside house. Alright, one day he saw an American prisoner of war got washed away and reached in front of Dr. Sadao's house. When Dr. Sadao and Hana went close to him and his identity got revealed to Dr. Sadao and Hana, they both were in dilemma whether they should save Tom or not, because Tom was an American. The story has been set up in the just after the World War II, when America dropped bomb over Hiroshima and Nagasaki, right? So Dr. Sadao was in dilemma, but he chose his profession over nationalism, saved the life of Tom, because he knew if he is going to throw him back into the sea, then definitely Tom will die. Tom is American prisoner of war. Alright, so he did not throw him back into the water, but rather he took him inside, treated him, took the bullets out and saved his life. But he was a patriot too. So what did he do? He informed the army general that an American prisoner of war is living at his house. And when he informed the general promised him that he is going to send few assassins. Assassins, people who do political murders, right? So he said, the general of the army said to Dr. Sadao that he is going to send few assassins and they will kill Tom. But they didn't come. 3 restless nights did Dr. Sadao spend. They did come to his house, and finally what happened? Dr. Sadao, did not want them to murder Tom, and he helped Tom to escape from their house. He even gave his boat to Tom so that he may escape, he may run away. And at the end of the chapter, even Dr. Sadao is confused that why did he help Tom to escape in escaping from Japan. Alright, so this is the summary of this chapter. Now we're going to understand this chapter in detail. Alright, now when the chapter begins, we get to know about the early life of Dr. Sadao Hockey. What was the early life of Dr. Sadao Hockey when he was a child, right? His house was on Japanese coast. It was a beachside house. Alright. Second, when he was a child, he used to climb the huge pine trees. Alright, bare feet. He loved climbing pine trees. He used to spend time with his father. Several moments on that beach were spent with his father, Dr. Sadao's father, right? Then what happened? From his beach, they could witness or they could see an island. Alright. And his father used to think that the island is the future of Japan. Alright. So it was a very important island. Right. So he used to think that that island is really very important for Japan's future. Who used to think like that? It's Dr. Sadao's father. Now if we come to Dr. Sadao's father, he was very serious person. He never joked or he never laughed much. But he was a real patriot. He loved Japan a lot. He did not like America because America dropped bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Then what happened? But simultaneously, he was really concerned for his son's education. He wanted his son to be to be a renowned surgeon and scientist. And for that, he sent his son, Dr. Sadao, to America. Alright, to America, the place he did not like. Dr. Sadao's father sent Dr. Sadao to America at the age of 22. When Dr. Sadao was 22, he went to America. When he went to America, he used to stay at Professor Harley's house. Where did he stay? He stayed at Professor Harley's house. Professor Harley's wife he did not like because she was quite voluble, right? But accidentally there, he met Hana. Alright, and when he met Hana over there, he fell in love with her. But he loved his father too much that he waited to fall in love with Hana. First of all, he wanted to confirm that Hana is a Japanese. He did not want to get married to an American girl. So he waited to confirm whether Hana is Japanese or American. When he got confirmed that yes, Hana is a Japanese girl, then he came back, took permission from his father, and he married Hana. It was a typical traditional marriage. Alright. Now what happened? When he returned back from America at the age of 30, he had become a renowned doctor, surgeon, and a scientist. Why are we calling Dr. Sadao a scientist, children? Because Dr. Sadao was working on a medicine, on an ointment which could even clean the mark of the wound. Alright, so he was a scientist too. But Dr. Sadao was so popular, but still he was not sent with army troops. Why? Because of two reasons. Number one, he was working on that medicine and the government wanted him to work on the medicines, right? Second, general of the army was not well and he wanted Dr. Sadao to be around so that if anytime he needs him, the general needs Dr. Sadao should be in Japan. So, Dr. Sadao was really popular, really a renowned doctor, a really successful doctor. Alright. And then Hana and Dr. Sadao used to live together and they lived a very happy life. They were so understanding. They both were so loving to each other and they were living a very good life. This is the beginning of the story. This is something about Dr. Sadao Hockey and Hana, who were husband and wives. wife, and they were living in Japan before the main story starts. Now, how did the main story start, or where is the main story starting? Now we saw that one day Dr. Sadao was standing, it was night time, and Dr. Sadao was standing on the beach, or right in front of his house. He was standing on the beach, and he was, he went nostalgic. He was remembering all the moments that he had spent with his father that I told you right now. And that's how we came to know about Dr. Sadao Hockey, right? Now when he returned back to his house and Hana opened the door, Hana hugged him. She just wrapped Dr. Sadao lovingly, but suddenly she saw something coming on the shore. Alright, and they both went to the railing of veranda and they leaned down and they saw there is something on the shore. They ran there, it was a man, right? First of all, they considered that man to be a fisherman. They thought, of course, on that Japanese coast, fishing was very much popular, alright? So he thought that it must be a fisherman. Some fisherman must have fallen down the water and he must have washed ashore, right? But when they went close, they turned the man, they found that it was not a fisherman. It was an American prisoner of war. Through his golden hair, through his cap that he was wearing, alright, through his color, they got to know that he was an American prisoner of war. Dr. Sadao saw that man was heavily bleeding, alright. Dr. Sadao rubbed his hand to find where is it bleeding from, right? And he found a bullet mark. He was hit by a bullet. That American must have tried to run from Japan and Japanese soldiers must have shot him, right? So Dr. Sadao tried to search the bullet mark. He was a very talented doctor. Soon he got to know where the bullet mark was and he picked up some sea moss, right, from there only, and he rubbed it and closed the wound so that bleeding may stop. The blood may not come out. Alright. Now Dr. Sadao and Hana were sitting there. Why? They were confused. Should they throw this man back into the water? But if they will throw the man back into the water, the man will not survive. He was unconscious. He was bleeding heavily. That sea moss will not stop the blood for a longer time, right? So definitely that man will die, and of course he's unconscious and he will drown, right? So should they take the man inside? But it is against their them being patriotism. So them being patriots, right? So it was against their patriotism also. So they were in dilemma whether they should throw the person, take the person inside, or should they give the person to Japanese soldiers. Even if they give the person to Japanese soldiers, the Japanese soldiers will again kill him, right? So here the story starts, and this much I have mentioned on the board. Let's have a quick reading of it, children. Dr. Sadao Hockey's early life, I told you, lived in a house on a Japanese coast. Alright. Now, he often played there as a small boy. When he was young, he used to play there on that coast. Climbed pine trees bare feet. He used to climb the pine trees bare feet. Visited South Sea Island with father. I told you from his house an island was visible and he used to visit that island with his father. Father believed that island to be the stepping stone for Japanese future. That island was really important, right? All the fishing used to take place from there and everything. So that island was really important for Japanese future. Father was a quiet man, never joked but played with him, right? Father, of course, was a serious man. He did not joke much, but he was a caring father. All right. He was, he always played with him. He gave him a safe and secure childhood. Who gave safe and secure childhood to Dr. Sadao? His father. His father used to tell him stories of the war. All right. His father used to tell him that how America has done with Japan, and so he always used to spend time with his son. Sadao was a dutiful son, did everything that his father told him. As I told you, even his marriage, when he started loving Hana, when he started liking Hana, first he confirmed whether Hana was an American or Japanese. So he was a dutiful son and did everything that his father wanted him to do. Father was stern but earned a lot for, father was stern but cared a lot for Sadow's future, sent him to America to study surgery and science at the age of 22 years. I told you this, father though did not like America but did send his son to America for further studies. As I told you, we are getting to know about, definitely this story is an anti-war story, but we also get to know about pseudo-nationalism. Alright, fake nationalism, which we just hate when we are sitting at a distance with that country. But here when his father thought America would be a better place for his son to become a better surgeon, he had sent him there, isn't it? At the age of 22, did Sadao go to America? Right. Sadao came back Sadao came back in Japan at 30. When he was 30 years old, he came back. An expert surgeon and scientist. I told you why. Of course, he was an expert surgeon, but he was a scientist too. Earns great renown in father's lifetime. When his father was alive, of course, he had become a very quite a renowned doctor, which his father wanted. Perfecting a discovery to render wounds clean. Of course, he was working on something, on a medicine that could even clean the mark of the wound. So now retained in Japan, not sent with his troops. Now, how successful Sadao was, we get to know from this. Why was he held back in Japan? Why wasn't he sent with the troops? Why wasn't he sent in the army to treat the soldiers? Because of two reasons. Not sent with the troops, kept back to pursue research. First of all, the government wanted him to pursue his research. Second, General too was unwell, could not afford sending Sadao out of Japan. Not out of Japan, but with the army. Sadao reminisces his stay in America. He recalls all the moments that he had spent in America while he is standing on the beach, right? Meets Hana in America accidentally at Professor Harley's house. When he was in America, he used to stay in small house which was a rented house, alright, and it was Professor Harley's house, and accidentally Hana must have come to their house and he met him. He met her. Likes her at first sight. Now when he was living at Professor Harley's house, he met Hana accidentally and he started liking him. Waits to fall in love till he is sure that she is Japanese. Now he was such a beautiful son. He knew his father will never agree him to get married to an American girl. So he waited to fall in even love before he could confirm that she was a Japanese girl. In America, he lives at Professor Harley's house. I told you this. He dislikes Professor Harley's wife because she was quite voluble. Hates food and small room. He did not like the kind of food that was given to him and the room too. Sadao and Hana's marriage seeks father's approval for marriage. As he was a dutiful son, he knew it's very important for his father to confirm whether he could marry Hana or not. Marriage organized in old Japanese style, in traditional style. Couple love each other, have understanding, right? They loved each other a lot and they had quite good understanding. A strange creature. Now what happens when all these moments were being remembered by Dr. Sadao standing on the beach? He went back and what happened? Hana opened the door. She was wearing a kimono, haori and a kimono. Haori is the dress of Japan and kimono is the a kind of long jacket, embroidered jacket. So she was wearing that. She opened the door, and when she opened the door and she wrapped her arms round Dr. Sadao, suddenly her eyes fell on something that came on the shore. Hana wearing haori over kimono opens the door. This I have told you. Both lean over veranda railing overlooking. Now when Hana saw something over there, they both went to the railing of the veranda and they leaned over it to see who is there. The beach, realizing that it's a staggering, the man is staggering on the shore. They found that a man is trying to reach the shore. He had come on the beach and now he's staggering. He's not able to properly walk, or he's not able to even crawl. So he was trying to somehow get on the shore. Thinking it to be a fisherman, being curious, ran down to the beach, noticed wounded, unconscious man. They ran from their house. They just were very curious, who's that man? First of all, they considered it to be a fisherman. All right, because fishermen were all the time doing fishing over there. The man must have fallen down. They thought so. So what happened? They went there. They found an unconscious man over there. He was wounded. A closer look to confirm his identity. Now, when they turned the man, they suddenly saw that he was not a fisherman. Rather, he was an American prisoner of war. How did they get to know that? Through his hair, through his cap that he was wearing. The man is an American POW, prisoner of war. Is seriously wounded and bleeding profusely, right? He was seriously bleeding and he was unconscious. Suffers a gun wound. Dr. Sarao, being a doctor, got to know that there is a bullet that has hit him. Sarao probes the wound. Probes means searches the wound. Packed it with sea moss. Now he just picked some sea moss from there and he packed the wound. American's condition too pathetic to be thrown back into the sea. Now here the real story starts. Why? Because now doctor and his wife will be in dilemma that should we throw back the person into the water, because if they throw back the person will not be able to recover. Alright, so this is the story that we have studied. Now the real story will start when how they took the man, they took a decision of taking the man inside and how they treat him, how Hannah supports her husband, how their workers or their servants leave Dr. Sadao and Dr. Sadao's wife Hannah, and how General sent few people to call Dr. Sadao because he was not well. But Dr. Sadao reveals entire thing to General, and how General will decide to send assassinators. But the assassinators will not come for 3 days, and Dr. Sadao decides that he is going to help the person to escape. Alright.